Welcome to TradeTheNBA.com. This is John. This report is for the 18th. Well, we continue to cross pretty much in flatness. We've had this shakeout that's still above zero, so that holds the positive line to it, even though we've been in a slight weakness with steel fading, red DOC fading, green fading, so there's no real buyers, but unfortunately with the short activity that exists, not enough to move things lower. And the shakeout actually rose from the middle three. Let's put it up here so you can see the actual number. Down at the bottom, 398, and currently up at 513, given what we're seeing right now. Now, of course, that's the current day, so we don't know that that's finalized. The previous one from here was 335, so even the jumping to 398 is a turn up in the shakeout from the previous day's action, which was pretty modest. It wasn't until just after hours that we've seen most of the move. Finally got my NASDAQ chart back up and running again. Likewise situation here, and actually an additional P2 pivot showing up there, meaning we pivoted down here, came down a little bit, and we're pivoting up again with the red. So this is what we talked about from the bullish, and this is going to give a breakout for the NASDAQ from this mid-range. If we look at it from a daily of the S&P, it's kind of already broken out of that range, but it's just kind of stalled right along the top side of it. And up at the high, this is something we were talking about, where when you reset your DOC, the shakeout, everything else, you're set to go. Despite the euro filling back in the positive extremes, which we expected it to do because there really wasn't much of a reason for that pop up, other than central banks, they really want to keep the euro from fading below that 110 level because it becomes a psychological implosion thing. But given U.S. growth versus EU growth, it's surprising that it's even this high. I know there are a lot of people who think that the euro should skyrocket, but there really isn't any justification for that given what we're seeing from their economic growth situation. Though they think that the U.S. easing is a guarantee. We'll see. I thought I'd bring oil back in here because with the turmoil that's going on, I just wanted to point out, this is the ability of the shale in the U.S. and the just speed with which they can ramp up in any kind of disruption, giving no support to oil given the situation where normally a conflict in the Strait of Hormuz, you'd see oil would have spiked dramatically. This is not happening. The gold maintaining its flatness. It's way up there, though. I mean, we're looking at moving here to plus 25 with the DOC red, and you can do that for a little while, but it's going to have to ease off some of that. It just means there's no new real money flowing into it to help reset anything, so it might have reached its peak in the current wave. Here's what we had intraday. It was just a bunch of back and forth. It was kind of interesting as we rolled around over here. We had an early DOC. And it was interesting because even as that one, even if you didn't like that, I like it when it breaks the ABM, but even if you wanted to wait for the 76% or you just weren't confident that this had crossed over enough yet, for me, that rollover of the red breaking the zone, I know I'm going to at least get to the 50%, so I like to have at least a two-zone move there to be able to capture some gains. Sure enough, it did that, and what was interesting about it is that you had the reset of the steel crossed over here and popped up, but then immediately gave a soft weakening signal. And it wasn't until the steel moved right back above cyan, which was right over here, it actually happened a bar earlier. But even if you wanted to be conservative, it happened right there. That led to the move up, which then led to kind of an interesting one, the same situation here where you had weakness because the cyan had remained right here in a quasi-DOC spread. Right at that particular point, but with the reset of steel, again, it popped forward, gave it a little bit of a push, but as soon as the steel came back down and you had the separation between cyan and green, with green moving below red, right there, boom, another opportunity, and that actually moved below the 38%, almost got to 23, and then just gyrated across to get a clean DOC spread right here on lower red pivot, so you can see how you were up at this higher range with the red, and then boom, this one comes up, starts to roll over. It's like, okay, you can jump on that anywhere along that path that's still giving you above that 61%. It's like, boom, that's just a tax city. And then that went all the way to a zero level, which was an elevated zero level relatively close to what 50% was, and pretty even to the setup here. And, weakness continued with more of the Disney spread constructs, only here you never had a reset of the steel coming from below when you had this. So getting this super spike with all positive extremes. I would expect some of that to fill. It's hitting that 2905 resistance. This is sort of forcing mini short cover. That's why you're getting that kind of giant bars, because we can see it from the daily. There's plenty of short activity in that. It's just not producing the results that shorts think that it should produce. Of course, from a 50K standpoint, this buy from way back here, which has just been in consolidation, you can see that it's setting higher and higher and up to 95 for a stop. So not a whole lot of room right there, just because it's just produced pretty much sideways flat, even though we've had gold rising. But now we're meeting gold with Azure right there, and that's usually a critical point because it's got to continue the next ride up, or we tend to see that rollover happen at that point. This was an interesting one because I was talking to some people who were short, and I was like, well, but you're not seeing, the other day, intraday with the cyan was still below red, any follow through, so we weren't expecting anything from a continuation. So it was one of those where it's like, well, you got to take the gains that are available and go with that. What I think also we haven't talked about either is this nice move from Bitcoin, all the way back here from, and even further if we shrink it, we've been getting buys that took place much further back when there was weakness well into the 5,000 range back before. So there's been a steady accumulation. It just isn't a lot of volume per se within it, but then we had that huge gap up, and so you're getting back to that 10,000 range, which that's 50%, almost 100% move from, it's over 100% when it was down to the 30-something hundred range, but even when it was at the 5+, you're literally making a significant move. So there's definitely some interest there, and it's worth noting because I think that some of that's going to be a draw either from gold and other areas just as a hedge situation. So as always, though, I will be putting up anything on the Skype chat that's relevant, and we will follow this pre-market with all those positive extremes, looking for the point where we're going to come back down to that, in this case, it's 28.97 range, and from all the way up here, the 29.04. So that's the plan. As always, trade well. Talk to you later.